Before the story starts, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to our channel, because today's story will touch your heart and remind you that real talent doesn't need riches to shine. Now, let's begin. The afternoon sun blazed over the busy city square, where people rushed past without a glance at the little girl sitting beside a broken fountain. Her dress was faded, her shoes didn't match, and her tiny fingers trembled as they hovered above a scratched, old violin. Her name was Lila, just 9 years old, with tangled brown hair and eyes that carried more pain than a child should ever know. She wasn't begging for money, she was playing for hope. But most people didn't stop. They hurried past, too busy, too proud, or too blind to notice the story in her song. Until a man in a sleek black suit paused. His name was Daniel Cross, a billionaire businessman known for his arrogance and sharp tongue. He was the kind of man whose smile could buy silence and whose money could bend truth. He leaned against his luxury car, a smirk dancing on his lips as he watched the trembling girl struggle to play. "That's music," he said loud enough for people nearby to laugh. The word struck Lila like stones. Her bow slipped. The sound cracked. People chuckled. Daniel crossed his arms. "Tell you what, little one," he said mockingly, "if you can play something that actually moves me, something worth listening to, I'll adopt you. Deal?" The crowd gasped. Some laughed. It was entertainment to them, rich man teases poor girl. But to Lila, it was a lifeline. She looked up with teary eyes. "If I play, and you feel something," she whispered, "you promise you'll take me home?" He shrugged. "Sure, why not? But make it quick. I've got a meeting in 10. She nodded, clutching her violin like it was all she had left, which it was. She closed her eyes, took a trembling breath, and began to play. At first, her fingers stumbled. Then, something shifted. The sound deepened, tender, haunting, filled with raw emotion. Each note told a story, of cold nights under bridges, of hunger that burned worse than fever, of a mother's lullaby she barely remembered. The crowd fell silent. Even Daniel's mocking smile faded. The music climbed, soared, and broke, like a voice crying for love in a world too cruel to listen. When she finished, the silence that followed was heavier than any applause. Daniel blinked rapidly. Something inside him had cracked. He turned away quickly, as if ashamed of the tears forming in his eyes. He didn't speak. Didn't move. The crowd erupted in applause, throwing coins and bills at her feet. But she didn't care about the money, she was looking at Daniel, waiting for his answer. He said nothing. Just stared at her with an unreadable expression, and then, quietly, he got into his car and drove away. Lila's small shoulders trembled, but she picked up her violin again and whispered, "Mama said, music always reaches where words cannot." She began to play again, and though her heart broke, the sound was full of hope. But that wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. 2 weeks later, a black limousine stopped beside the same broken fountain. People turned to stare as Daniel stepped out, not in his usual arrogance, but carrying something carefully in his hands, a brand new violin case. He looked around, searching. But Lila wasn't there. Only an old street vendor told him, "The girl? She got sick. They took her to the children's hospital down the road." Daniel froze. A feeling, strange and unfamiliar, gripped him. Guilt. He drove to the hospital immediately. When he found her room, Lila was lying on a thin bed, pale and weak. Her violin rested beside her, strings broken. She smiled faintly when she saw him. "You came back." He nodded, unable to meet her eyes. "I heard your music again. It played in my head every day. I couldn't forget it." Lila chuckled softly. "Mama said, if you play from your heart, someone out there will feel it too." Daniel placed the new violin case beside her. "This is for you," he said quietly. "Play for me again, Lila. Please." Her small hands opened the case, and tears filled her eyes as she touched the shining instrument. With what little strength she had, she lifted it and began to play. The melody filled the sterile white room with warmth. Nurses paused in the hallway. Daniel stood frozen, his heart twisting. He finally understood, the thing he'd been missing all his life wasn't wealth, power, or pride. It was connection. Humanity. When she finished, he knelt beside her bed. "Lila," he said softly, voice breaking, "the offer still stands. I meant it. I want to adopt you, if you'll let me." Her eyes widened. "Really?" He smiled through tears. "Really?" She reached for his hand, small fingers curling around his. "Then promise you'll never make fun of someone's music again." He laughed quietly. "I promise." From that day on, Daniel changed. The ruthless businessman became a man with purpose. He started a foundation for street children who loved music, in Lila's name. And every night, he would sit by her side, listening to her play, the same melody that once humbled a millionaire and changed his heart forever. So next time you see someone small, struggling, or ignored by the world, remember Lila's violin. Sometimes, the most powerful voices come from the quietest corners. And maybe, just maybe, you'll stop and listen. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and comment below. Subscribe for more emotional stories that remind us that kindness and love can change even the coldest hearts.